Mr. McClure?
Here.
Mr. Brewer?
Here.
Mr. Axton?
Here.
Mr. Jablonski? We have a quorum.
Moving to our consent docket, starting with minutes. Item 1, consideration of approval, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of the minutes of the July 14th, 2022 regular Planning Commission meeting. Does any member of the commission wish to remove any item from the consent docket? Does any member of the audience wish to remove any item from the consent docket? I'll take a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
And a vote.
You may vote.
No, we're not on.
Touch your screen.
This is Dave Beck.
Still can't vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on, they haven't opened
Yeah.
it yet.
Well, no. How come it's not on?
Nope.
There we go.
Here we go.
There we go.
2 years later.
Okay, everyone has voted, and the motion carried 7-0.
Moving to our first non-consent items, number 2 and 3, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of resolution number R-2223-6, Rental Ranch 2 LLC and D.L. Hayes Co., Inc., request amendment of the Norman 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan from low-density residential designation to commercial designation for the east 20 feet of Lot 50 and all of Lot 51, Block 2, Woods Lawn Addition, located at 621 Highland Parkway. And item number 3, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance number O-2223-2, Rental Ranch 2 LLC and D.L. Hayes Co., Inc., request rezoning from R1 Single Family Dwelling District and C2 General Commercial District to SPUD Simple Planned Unit Development for the east 20 feet of Lot 50 and all of Lot 51, Block 2, and the west 25 feet of Block 9, Woods Lawn Addition, generally located at 621 Highland Parkway. And I'll take the staff presentation.
Logan Hubble with the Planning Department. So we have an application from Rental Ranch 2 LLC and D.L. Hayes Company Incorporated for a Norman 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan amendment from low-density residential to commercial designation and a rezoning to SPUD, Simple Planned Unit Development, located at 621 Highland Parkway. So this is the current, the low-density residential 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan designation, and this is the proposed commercial designation. So this site is zoned R1 Single Family Dwelling District and C2 General Commercial District, and is 13,300 square feet in area. To the north, east, or to the north and east are C2 General Commercial District zoned areas. To the south is an area zoned C2 General Commercial District, as well as R1 Single Family Dwelling District, and to the west is R1 Single Family Dwelling District. The site's currently vacant. To the north and east are commercial land uses. To the south is single family residential and commercial, and to the west is single family residential land use. The applicants wish to construct a storage building. This is a look across the street and the house across the street. This is a look at the property itself. This is looking east down Highland Parkway, and this is looking west. And this is the site plan. So staff forwards this request for rezoning from R1 Single Family Dwelling District and C2 General Commercial District to SPUD Simple Planned Unit Development as ordinance number O-2223-2 for consideration by the Planning Commission and a recommendation to City Council.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Could you touch on when we reviewed this item previously, March 10th, and it was turned down also by City Council April 26th of this year. Can you describe the past and what's changed on this application?
Yes, so that was and they were trying to rezone to C2, which would have allowed, a lot of different uses, like including, I don't know, a grocery store or a gas station or something, right? Next to the single-family neighborhood, and so it sounded like there was some concern regarding that. But now they've really narrowed it down, so now it's a SPUD, which and the only allowed use is this storage building, which would be a personal storage building. So really has gotten rid of most of the what would be considered commercial potential uses.
Thank you. Do you happen to know the height of the neighboring commercial building to the east, the white building that they own?
I don't.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'd take the applicant presentation.
Hello, my name is Bill Hayes with D.L. Hayes Company, and we're simply trying to get it rezoned to a SPUD so that our owner can keep his cars and use it for storage of materials that he uses in his business. So that's what we're trying to do. Any questions?
Yes, actually, how tall is the building?
Be 15 feet in the front and 21 feet at the roof.
Okay,
The
so,
building to the east is about 18 feet tall.
okay, so the west wall, my concern is how it abuts the residential property to the west.
Okay.
Just how tall it is and how that affects the property to the west.
Shouldn't affect it at all. We've got a side yard setback of 5 feet.
Okay. I realize that the landscaping requirements per the city of Norman are
Right.
2 trees in front, but it might seem beneficial to the residential neighbor to the west to try to do some landscaping along. Are there any plans for additional landscaping,
No, well, we're gonna put a fence there, a wood
Right.
fence, stockade fence.
but any landscaping, trees,
No.
bushes, shrubs, nothing?
No,
Okay.
it's really not big enough. We could do some landscaping, but we don't have any plans for it.
Okay. I was just thinking in terms of how it affects the residential property with a tall building that tall
Right.
next to it.
Okay.
I think that I asked this last time, but since it's brought back up again, the houses that are next to it, this is a residential lot that when the housing addition came through in those houses, they were built in the 1950s, is that correct?
That's correct.
And
This
so
one-
it's been sitting empty since, and nothing's ever been constructed on there, so
I think
70-plus years it's empty.
1954 maybe is when it was
Right.
platted.
Right,
And there's nothing, has never been anything built on this lot.
okay. I was just clarifying, so my memory is correct.
To the north, it's been all developed commercial to the north, as you saw on the map. Any other questions?
Can I ask about your site plan? You've put a buffer between the neighboring building that the landowner also owns, but not added that same buffer to the residential house on the east. So can you talk about why the site plan was done that way? It looks like you put the building along the lot line. Is that what happened there?
Because it's a 25-foot easement. There's an OG&E easement there, 10 foot on each side of the line, and that's a different lot line. In other words, it's 25 feet to the east of our building is zoned commercial already. Do you realize that?
Yes.
Okay.
And is that utility easement currently providing any services for either lot?
The OG&E easement,
Yes, the one that would go directly between.
it feeds everything to the south. It's from the north to south. It runs the electric line, goes to the shopping center to the south. It's a 10-foot easement, 5 foot each side.
What about the building materials? It looks like you've got a corrugated metal planned for that, whereas all the residential buildings are of a masonry or siding style.
Well, I think we'll have to meet what the city building department tells us we do. Under the zoning, I think we have to maybe use a certain percentage of masonry and certain percentage of metal. I don't think it can be all metal, I'm not sure. Is that correct?
I'm going to let Jane clarify for that.
No, I just wanted to say, within the SPUD document, you had stated that the exterior of the building will be metal R panel. And
Yes.
so that does, since this is a SPUD, that exempts you from any of the 80% masonry requirement.
All right.
Is the intent to put masonry on the building or to
No,
use metal?
No, not unless we have to. It's a lot more expensive to do that.
So that would be a concern I have, is not matching to the neighboring buildings in the neighborhood without having some masonry. So I don't know if you have anything else to speak to that thought.
Well, the owner is here that owns the building to the east. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the residential neighborhood to the west and the impact in particular, because it's a much more significant change to those houses than maybe the industrial kind of feel that's happening to the east.
Okay. I don't know if Andy would like to talk to him about that. Go ahead. This is Andy Darks. He owns the property.
I'm Andy Darks. I live at 819 Clement. The last time we had this meeting, they didn't have a problem with the building. Tonight, you also said that you canceled it on the 26th or whatever, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows it wasn't canceled. You all offered me the SPUD. So as far as the building, we were just going to do a metal building, and I was going to landscape it. There's already boulders there. I've been working on it, and I'm very emotional about this because the building across the street from mine is animals go in and out of there, homeless people go in and out of there. There was a donut shop there that all the neighbors went to and knew each other and talked. That got wiped out. So if we need to put some brick 3 feet up or concrete block 3 feet up, well, we're going to do it because we have to.
I just want to make a point of order that the meeting on the 26th with the SPUD, that was actually city council and not planning commission. You
Okay.
passed planning commission, I voted no, but you had passed planning commission, it was declined at city council level. And they, from what I understood, were declining with the idea of moving it to the SPUD to create a little bit more restriction as to what could be done with the property.
And I'd never heard of his bud, and I said, okay, and here we are, because I'm about the neighborhood. And if there was a certain person here that said, we don't want another donut shop, we don't want an automotive garage, we don't want a marijuana grow. Well, I own the building on the east side of that for 21 years. No marijuana grow, no mechanic shop, but there is one next door, and the donut shop got run out. However, that same person approved, or however it works, a marijuana grow 6 blocks to the south on Flood Street. So without just saying, she heard my name instead of Bill's, and that's when this deal went south. That's what happened.
Are there any other questions for the applicant?
And again, I'm not mad. I'm just real passionate about this. And in the world, in politics, you just can't say what needs to be said. You have to go this way and that way. And so my voice is shaking. I'm just this, last time they said, I don't have a problem with the structure of the building. That's not what I'm worried about, intruding on the neighborhood, which I thought would have been what I would have griped about, but they wanted to know what I was going to use it for. And I told them a warehouse, and that's still what I'm going to use it for if it gets passed. Now, I know I have the wrong attitude talking to y'all tonight, but I'm done, and I'm getting bullied, and I don't like it. So with that being said, I'll go sit down and be quiet.
Thank you for your presentation.
Any other questions?
Right now, we're doing the applicant presentation. We'll have a moment for audience comments shortly. Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay. Now we're going to go to audience comments, and we do have some cards out there. If you don't mind filling it out with your name and address, they are tan and they're on the table over there by the door, and you can bring them up here. If anybody would like to make a comment, when you come to the microphone, just make sure to say your name and your address. And I will give 3 minutes to any speaker on there. If you would like a 30-second warning before that time is up, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to yield the full time to you, and at the end of the 3 minutes, I'll thank you for your comment. Yes, please, if you don't mind. And if anybody else has any comments they'd like to make on any other agenda items, same thing, you can write down which agenda item you're speaking for. Were we going to have a comment? Anybody else care to make an audience comment? Moving into Planning Commission discussion. Any discussion or thoughts on the presentation? My only thoughts on this, I do think that this is a much better application than what we saw before. I appreciate the thought that putting into this and going through the process to come back to give a little bit more restriction, and I understand that that is frustrating and took time to do that. I actually don't see a problem with the intended use. It's a personal use. They've got good restrictions in there for rentals. My concerns are mostly just related to the aesthetics for the neighborhood and the houses to the side. So I would be in favor, especially if this had a masonry side and it was a single story and it was in line with some of the neighboring buildings and looked kind of more like a garage for one of the residential houses. I think something like that would make a lot of sense for this neighborhood. I don't think it would be an inappropriate use myself. So that would be my thought. I don't know if any other discussion on that. Seeing none, I would take a motion for approval.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
and a vote.
You may vote. Everyone has voted. Motion carried 7-0.
Moving to the next items, number 4 and 5, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of resolution number R-2223-7, BMH Jenkins 2022 LLC requests amendment of the Norman 2025 land use plan from low-density residential designation to mixed-use designation for approximately 0.16 acres of property located at 765 Jenkins Avenue. And item number 5, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance number O-2223-3, BMH Jenkins 2022 LLC requests rezoning from R3 multifamily dwelling district to SPUD simple planned unit development for approximately 0.16 acres of property located at 765 Jenkins Avenue. And I'll take the staff presentation.
Colton Wayman, Planning Department. We have an application from BMH Jenkins 2022 LLC for rezoning to SPUD Simple Planned Unit Development located at 765 Jenkins Avenue. In addition to that, the applicant's requesting a Norman 2025 land use plan amendment from low-density residential to mixed use. This is the subject tract currently. Currently, it is low-density residential on the Norman 2025 land use plan. To the north is low-density residential. To the south is commercial designation. East is mixed use and single-family. To the west is office and single-family, or low-density residential. And they're requesting to change that to mixed use. Again, they're requesting to change from R3 multifamily dwelling district to SPUD Simple Plan Unit Development. The tract, like I said, is zoned R3 currently. To the north, it's zoned R3. To the south is zoned C1. To the west is zoned RO, which is Residence Office District. In addition, it's also zoned C1 to the west. To the east, it is zoned Center City Form-Based Code. This is another look at the building footprint currently. This is an aerial of the site. It's a little outdated. The structure shown here is actually not there right now. But to the north is a single-family home. To the south is that shopping center. To the east are some vacant lots and single-family homes. To the west are single-family homes and some businesses. This is looking at the lot itself and the single-family home to the north. This is looking north on Jenkins. This is looking at the shopping center to the south of that lot. This is looking from the lot just across Jenkins at the single-family home to the right, and then on the left is that business. This is looking from the back of that lot, looking north along the alley. And this is looking south along the alley. And this is the proposed site plan. The applicant is requesting to rezone to allow for a mixed-use building with commercial and residential uses. Staff forwards this rezoning request as ordinance number 2223-2223-3 for consideration by the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, we take the applicant presentation.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sean Rieger, representing the applicant in this case. It's great to see so many new faces on Plan Commission night. Glad you're all here. I'll be very brief, just to highlight a few things that Colton went through. That house is gone. I want to make sure everybody is clear about that. The site is leveled at this point, so these photos do not show accurately, just we don't have those aerials accurate at this point. It is zoned R3. The only reason we're really here tonight is because we're showing a commercial component now on the first floor, which is sort of in keeping with the desire of Jenkins going north through Center City. This is not a Center City site, and so we don't have the ability to use that code to put commercial on the first floor, and with R3, you don't have that allowance either. So we have to come back with a SPUD, basically, to make that allowance happen in this site. It would be a mixed three-story building. It allows for commercial on the bottom, 3 stories with a rooftop deck allowable. The parking is in the back, which is pretty common in these areas. You see quite a few sites. You can see them on the aerial over here to the right. There's a number of projects that have parking in the back just like this. There are tandem spaces as well in the Center City area that utilize that concept as well. So really very much in keeping with the Center City Code. There's the site plan again. You see the shaded areas are green space, and the parking in the rear with the site up front facing the street. Drainage, we've worked really hard to keep the drainage down. The SPUD would allow for up to 65.7, it's not a typo, we are that tight, 65.7 impervious. R3 already allows for 65% impervious, and so we've asked for an additional 0.7% impervious over what the current R3 code would allow for. Again, the site's proximity, this is a staff report to CCFBC, makes it very much in keeping with that general locations vision. Nobody appeared at pre-development at all in the hearing we had, and there's no protest filed that we're aware of either. So with that, I'll simply take some questions and be happy to answer any that you have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes. You have an 18-foot building setback. Any reason for the 18 feet and not less? Or
Yeah, really to keep with the line of, you see the commercial building, if you look at this site right here, also impervious. We need the parking in the back, and so to keep the impervious to get it to that 65.7%, we really need all that green space in the front.
okay. And have you identified a tenant at all for the first floor? Still working on it?
We have not.
So the whole first floor is commercial?
Correct.
So where are the people for the commercial, was it just expected to be a walk-up, or where are they supposed to park? I can't imagine that they would think to drive to the alley to park.
Correct, yes. This would be oriented to pedestrian type of commercial user, which we feel very confident in this location, as you see in the aerial next to the Sarkey's Energy Center right across the street. Basically, I would note the Greek House right now doesn't have much parking either and has been a successful enterprise there across the street for many, many years. We do anticipate this would be very much a pedestrian access commercial. The parking count was taken away at this point in the city of Norman. There's no longer any parking requirements, and this is outside of Center City, so it is up to the applicant. And as you practice commercial real estate, you realize you're only going to be able to market what you have. Tenants are smart. They won't go there if they don't think they can survive with the parking they have. So we're confident that will be successful.
So how tall is this building, or how many stories is in that building? The first floor is commercial, is it 2 more residential above that?
Correct. 3 stories.
Altogether?
So 1-story commercial on the ground floor, then 2 stories residential above that. Current R3 allows for 2.5 stories, 35 feet in height. We don't have a footage right now to give you on the height of this, but it would be 3 stories.
But you all don't have any plans yet for what that commercial would be, or what you all foresee or hope?
We do not.
All right, this is more out of my curiosity, is how does the parking in the back work? If you're in space number 5 or 8, and somebody's in 3, 4, 7, 6, how does this work?
It will be a management process of the tenants and of the owner. This is a concept, it's called tandem parking. It's a concept that Center City allows for. We're not in Center City, but it's a concept that has been allowed for. I think it's been utilized in Center City before. My understanding is staff is happy with this arrangement, is what I had understood in this proposal, and I believe that it's something that has been vetted quite a bit in the process of Center City and allowed user. No question, it will be something they have to manage. You're right. They
Right.
will, and I'm sure they will have some tools in place to do that.
I've seen some good concepts with the tandem parking before in California with some more highly densely populated apartment complexes where you would have one very long parking spot that, you know, whoever is occupying the units, that they can kind of self-manage usually. So the way that they did that is that you'd have one long row basically for each apartment unit, and that worked out pretty well from what I had seen historically in that more densely populated area. Also, I used to walk to the Thai restaurant from when I went to OU there, so I can attest to its walkability. Can you clarify, the drive is going away, correct, in the front?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Any other?
Are there any preliminary designs for the front facade at this point?
There are not at this point. We intend to follow the spirit of Center City, the Center City Code, as far as the spirit of what they intend for there. The PUD is written to basically material choices, but we don't have any elevations at this point.
And you're going to follow the spirit of the good-looking houses down there?
Appreciate that comment. You're right. There are different opinions on what is good looking and what is not, but correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Are there any audience comments? Seeing none, any planning commission discussion?
This may be a question going back to staff, so I'm not sure on procedure at this point, but has there been an example of a project in Norman that's had a 3 deep tandem parking arrangement?
I believe, I mean, I would have to drive by it again, but I believe that there is a 3D tandem on one of the Center City projects that is just west of the, the railroad tracks. It's what is the business there, though? I can't say the name of the business.
It's
The rail house,
Yeah.
right. It's just west of the rail house, and it's kind of an L-shaped development the way they did it, but I believe that they are bringing 3 in.
Another place that you can see it is the Primrose Funeral Home. They have a very long row for parking for funerals and that they'll put the funeral cars in, and it's one giant row. In general, I think shallow parking spots like this, you may see only being actually able to fit 2 cars instead of 3, just with the length. But again, that might fall under the tenant management, because people don't park as bumper to bumper as maybe they are able to.
Yeah, it looks like that place you're talking about is 215 and 219 Sims. Looks like they have that 3 deep on those properties.
I thought that there was one.
Any additional discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I would take a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second,
I'll second.
and a vote.
You may vote. Everyone has voted, and the motion carried 7-0.
Moving on to our next items, number 6, 7, and 8. Consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of resolution number R-2223-18. Red Rock Land Fund LLC requests amendment of the Norman 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan from commercial designation to low-density residential designation for approximately 12.41 acres of property located at the northwest corner of East Tecumseh Road and 12th Avenue Northeast. Item number 7, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance number O-2223-5. Red Rock Land Fund LLC request rezoning from PUD Planned Unit Development to PUD Planned Unit Development for residential uses for approximately 12.41 acres of property generally located at the northwest corner of East Tecumseh Road and 12th Avenue Northeast. And item number 8, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of PP-2223-1, consideration of a preliminary plat submitted by Sweetgrass Partners LLC, SMC Consulting Engineers PC for Red Canyon Ranch East, a planned unit development for approximately 12.41 acres of property located at the northwest corner of East Tecumseh Road and 12th Avenue Northeast. Staff presentation, please.
So we have an application from Red Rock Land Fund LLC for a Norman 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan amendment from commercial designation to low-density residential designation, and a rezoning to PUD Planned Unit Development District, located at the northwest corner of East Tecumseh Road and 12th Avenue Northeast. So the subject tract is currently designated for commercial in the 2025 Land Use and Transportation Plan, and this is the proposed low-density residential designation. The site is zoned PUD Planned Unit Development, established by Ordinance number O070840 and amended by Ordinance number O151634. The site is 12.41 acres in area. The area to the north is zoned PUD Planned Unit Development, Ordinance number O151634. The area to the east is zoned A2 Rural Agricultural District. The area to the south is zoned C1 Local Commercial District and PUD Planned Unit Development, Ordinance number O1314-21. And the area to the west is zoned PUD Planned Unit Development, Ordinance number O1516-34. The site is currently vacant. To the north and east are single-family residential. To the south is single-family residential and some vacant land. And to the west is single-family residential. This is an aerial shot. The applicant wishes to construct a low-density residential neighborhood here. This is a look at the site from Carolyn Ridge Road, which is part of the existing Red Canyon Ranch subdivision. This is the view from Black Mesa Road. This is a nearby park on Black Mesa Road, and this is a nearby park on Sedona Drive. The staff forwards this request for rezoning from PUD, Planned Unit Development Number O-151634 to PUD, Planned Unit Development as Ordinance Number O-2223-5 for consideration by the Planning Commission and a recommendation to City Council.
Any questions for staff?
Not a question, just a comment. Since Michael couldn't be here, I'll say thank you for showing us where the park is and how close it is.
Here in spirit.
Exactly.
Any other questions for staff? I will let Liz make a comment here.
I don't know what to do. So sorry, you just, yeah, so just, if it's a benefit,
Okay. I have to recuse myself because I have a relative with a financial impact for this project.
Does she need to
Benefit.
step down? We historically have stepped down into.
Do I need to leave?
Typically, she comes down from this area. We'll invite you back, I promise.
Okay, thanks.
All right, now that we had our recuse, any other questions for staff before we go to the applicant presentation? Oh, can we, all right. I'll take a motion to vote on the recusal, up to approve the recusal.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
and a vote. Does Liz have to vote on that?
You may vote. Everyone has voted, and the motion carried 6-0.
All right, now any other questions for staff before we go to the applicant presentation? Seeing none, we'll take it, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sean Rieger for the applicant in this case, and this one is straightforward. I think Logan covered it well. I'll just highlight a couple of things here. You've seen the aerials and the switch. This is a down zoning, if you hadn't noticed, obviously taking it from a commercial corner down to R1, which is probably a good thing. This was done quite a ways back. I remember zoning it initially, and it was in the era when we had big commercial corners, and I don't know if we'll have that era going forward, but now we need housing, as everybody knows, and so this is a shift to take it down to housing, but really just a continuation of the existing neighborhood. So a down zoning, 6,000 square foot lots, which is typical R1, 28 particular lots in the project. One thing I just wanted to highlight to you, this continues the multi-generational housing that this Red Canyon Ranch, we actually brought that into a PUD, I think 4 or 5 years ago about, when we brought that in, and we worked through a lot of criteria. It's in the PUD as to how you would do that, because at the time there was neighborhood concerns about, are we creating duplexes? No. And the PUD, if you read that paragraph, a pretty long meaty paragraph that says we can't rent it out, we can't have a different address, we have to have connection. A lot of criteria were put into the PUD, and that was all worked through when we did this originally in Red Canyon Ranch, and that is continued in this PUD. We didn't change anything. We had, I will clarify one thing, we did ask to have a detached multi-generational unit. In discussions with staff, it was decided to withdraw that request. And so we're back to exactly as it was approved with the rest of Red Canyon Ranch, no changes going forward into this one. So, but it's a very unique concept and something that Ideal Homes is very proud of. With that, I would just turn it over for questions. No neighbors appeared at this pre-development either, and we're not aware of any protest at this time. So thank you very much.
Any questions for the applicant?
I would just like to make a comment. I think that if we leave it commercial, that there's really not a lot of access that's there, given what Tecumseh looks like as far as the profile, being able to get in and out and their existing detention ponds. So I like that you're proposing this so that it's a more usable piece of property. That as it's currently zoned, it's kind of locked down to not much use.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see in one of our later agenda items some of the advantages of having more single-family homes, and I like having a variety of homes and the capabilities of what that can bring for our community. So I think it's nice seeing some multi-generational options available in town. Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, and seeing none, we'll go to audience comments. Seeing none, I will take any planning commission discussion and a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second,
I'll second.
and a vote.
You may vote. Everyone has voted. Carried 6-0.
All right, I would love to invite Commissioner McCown back to join us. Do we have to vote her back? We don't have to vote her back, right? All right, I'm going to move to item number 9. I understand this item is a request for postponement. I'm going to read the item, and then we can see if there's any comments, and otherwise make a motion to postpone. Item number 9, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance number O-2223-7, Classen Montessori School requests special use for a school to modify the approved site plan for property located at 2323 South Classen Boulevard. Any comments that anybody would like to make? And seeing none, I would take a motion to postpone.
Move to approve.
And a second to approve the postponement.
Second.
And a vote.
You may vote. Everyone has voted. And to postpone carried 7-0.
Moving to item number 10, consideration of adoption, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance number O-2223-6. City of Norman, Norman Utilities Authority requests special use for municipal use to modify the approved site plan with variances to the masonry requirement to allow gravel parking for employees and to the landscape requirements for approximately 50.5 acres of property generally located north of Robinson Street, approximately 2,000 feet east of 24th Avenue Northeast. And take the staff presentation.
All right. Colton Wayman, Planning Department. We have an application from the Norman Utilities Authority for special use for municipal uses to amend the site plan adopted by O-1920-14 and for variances to the City of Norman development requirements. It's located generally north of East Robinson Street, approximately 2,000 feet east of 24th Avenue Northeast. The site currently is zoned A1, General Agricultural District with special use for municipal uses. To the west, it's zoned C1. To the east is PUD Planned Unit Development. To the north, A2 Rural Agricultural District. And then to the south is unclassified state-owned land. This is a building footprint map. To the north, it's vacant. West, generally vacant. To the east, it's generally vacant also on those single-family tracts. And then there's not any existing buildings to the south. This is an aerial of the site currently. Not too many pictures to take of this. This is the tract itself. It's about 50 acres from Robinson Street, looking north at it. This is looking east along Robinson, and this is looking west along Robinson. This is a site plan of the planned line maintenance facility. And this is also a site plan for that as well. These are some renditions of what that will look like. And the, another view of the site plan. But more specifically, the NUA is requesting through this special use for variances to the masonry requirements, the parking and drive standards, and the landscaping requirements. Staff forwards this request as ordinance number O2223-6 for consideration by the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions for staff?
I have one. Yes, can you elaborate more on what is the landscaping modification or variance to the landscape requirements that you are proposing?
Sure, so any parking would have to have landscaping around it. And then they're also requesting masonry requirements. So with any special use, it's usually 80% masonry requirements. So they're asking to not do that at all. And then also, engineering can probably speak on this, but they're planning to do, instead of asphalt parking, they want to do a gravel parking for employees.
Okay. And that affects landscape how?
The gravel aspect doesn't affect landscape.
Require?
It might affect the pervious surface.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So is the impervious surface the main reason we're wanting to do that?
From my understanding, it's budget concerns, but they are planning to do asphalt in the future for that parking.
So are they planning on doing it at that point? Are they going to plan on pulling that all up and redoing it?
I'm not sure. The applicant is actually here and he'll present following me, but he would be best to answer that.
And the other question I'd had is between the two site plans you'd had, this color one that we had here had a stabilized road coming around it. Is that the current one, or which version's the current?
Which site plan are you referring to?
I don't know, it looks like
This one.
I think the applicant will go into detail on that.
And that's actually the EOC. That's not part of this application. That was the one you just held up. That's the EOC building. The building that this application is for the Norman Utilities Authority, which is back
The
north,
one north.
almost over the hill.
Okay. So this isn't even part of it. This one isn't.
I'm sorry. This one is included because they moved the drive.
Would it help if we got our applicant presentation and maybe allowed for additional staff questions afterwards if needed? Let's do that.
Good evening, Barrett Williamson, architect of record for the line maintenance facility. I did bring some handouts, actually. Major Barber brought some handouts. So the slide before you now is the Emergency Ops Center, and that's what's being passed around. And we share the site with them. So our building is like a 3-building complex up to the northwest corner, immediately west of the water tower. So you can see that's what we're proposing it will look like. It's, I don't know, 1,000 feet off of north of Robinson. It's quite a distance. It's not walkable. The roadway going from Robinson north to the line maintenance facility is all going to be heavy-duty asphalt paving because of the kind of vehicles that they bring in and out doing repairs on our sewer and water lines. So they're heavy trucks. They've got, backhoes, trenchers, things like that. So it's a heavy-duty paving section. What we're asking, and this is primarily driven by the budget, is to allow us to do some gravel parking for staff and for some of these large trailers that are going to be out there, with the intent that in the future those areas would become paved, maybe in another capital budget cycle. And so this is, the slide here shows the detention pond, which is to the southwest corner of the site, which is, you can see my mouse. It's right over here. And this road is going to come up and serve the EOC, and then there's going to be a electric gate that'll have a credential reader for after-hours access by city personnel, but we located it there so if the public pulls up and the gate's locked, they can do a 3-point turnaround at the drive into the EOC, which will also have a gate in this area right here. So this is kind of an enlarged area. So we've got the heavy-duty paving. We've got heavy-duty paving for the public parking. We do have irrigated landscaping in this area, in this little island, in this area to the south. That will all be landscaped. There is a loop road around the perimeter that is heavy-duty paving, and then we're filling in some of these areas in between the shop buildings with gravel parking. And then we've got some staff parking over here. And we're going to designate, you can't stripe gravel, so we're going to designate the spacing on those with the bumper curbs, the concrete precast bumper curbs. So we're not asking for all of the landscape to be waived. We met with planning on the landscaping after the application was filed. I think what we're proposing is pretty much in keeping with what the intent of the landscape ordinance is calling for. It's just so far off the road, and we have a challenge on the budget, and so we're like, well, since let's see if we can get the masonry requirement waived. That was waived for North Base for 2 of the city buildings, and we like our building better, but we think it looks pretty good without the masonry. So, and then if there's any questions on the drainage and detention, we've got Chris Savage with Wallace Design Collective here that can answer any questions from an engineering standpoint. So, be happy to take any questions from you. Thank you.
All right, any questions for applicant?
When you say heavy-duty paving around the building there, is everything going to be gravel?
No, the road coming from Robinson north
Uh-huh.
to the building, to the parking in front of the building, which is just west of that little teardrop-shaped island,
Right.
and the loop road, all of the actual paving up there is heavy-duty paving, and it's a 6-inch section of asphalt on treated subgrade and compacted ag base.
So you're asking for gravel basically on the outlying parking areas for
On
them
the
to store?
outlying, and then in between the back of the admin, or the back of the shop buildings and around the perimeter of the shop buildings.
Okay.
And it's just, it's like a temporary budget type deal that we want to get this built and get them moved in and get them off North Base, and that's one way we're able to make the budget work.
Okay. So if we're doing it all in gravel, and I think this brings up the pervious, impervious thing, are you counting the gravel as impervious?
We're not even really looking. There's so much pervious area on this site at this time that there's not going to be any kind of, we're not bumping up against any kind of limitation on that.
Right.
And the detention pond is designed for the whole 50 acres.
Yeah.
So and this is the first of what we imagine will be a number of future buildings built
Right.
in this
Well, and that's-
developed area over time.
I think that's what, I guess my concern is if we're putting this, how are we calculating that? Because sometimes pervious, gravel is considered impervious in a lot of instances because it compacts so tightly.
Right.
You would think that it's pervious, but it's really not. So if we're going to continue building these buildings, shouldn't we be calculating that and making provisions for it so that we're not continuing to just add?
Yeah, I don't think
impervious
it's going to be an
areas.
issue in any way, but I'll let Chris Savage speak to that.
Great question, thank you. We have discussed that with the city engineer, and we are counting the gravel parking lot as being paved, hard surface parking for the very reasons you state.
Right.
In addition, we're talking about paving it in the future, so we're counting on the future case being paved.
Okay.
And the detention pond does account for all of the city-owned parcels.
Could you speak up, please?
Thank you. The calculations also do count on all of the city-owned parcels as being fully developed.
Mhm.
So, as the facilities are expanded, the detention pond will not need to be modified.
Okay.
Just for a point of clarification, you said you're counting the parking space and also the gravel around the buildings, or only the parking was what you were adding to that count?
Correct. So all of the gravel we are considering as being paved area.
Jane, do you want to just address gravel as pervious or impervious, or for code? I think that might be a good clarification. Whether or not it's driven on, I believe, has a difference for how it's treated if it's counted.
Well, as the applicant stated, they've been in touch with the city engineer, and the engineering department does recognize it as an impervious area, and so it would be counted as such.
Any other questions for the applicant?
The heavy-duty pavement you're putting in is a 6-inch asphalt on base, is that what you said?
That's correct.
What kind of vehicles are coming back here besides just regular cars? Are we bringing big equipment in back here? Like big trucks, or what's the plan that's coming back here? I don't know the long-term plan.
Yeah, typically, I think they're going to be, they're going to be like 1-ton dually trucks pulling backhoes, things like that. Anytime you see, line maintenance people are like the backbone of our sewer system and our water system. So when there's a water main break, if they've got to take a trencher or a backhoe out in the middle of the night, they drive up here in their regular vehicle, and they get one of the city vehicles and load it up with the equipment they need to make that repair and head out and take care of it. So the heavy-duty paving, it's not that, there's going to be waste management up there. We've got a dumpster up there, but there's not going to be like giant fire trucks up there all the time. But it is going to be heavier than normal paving, what we put in like a residential area.
But the 6-inch asphalt, you think will cover it over a high-density concrete?
Our geotechnical engineer says 6 inches of asphalt will cover it. So, and typically, resident or light-duty paving is 4 inches.
Right.
So we've got a geotech that has a recommendation for 6 inches of asphalt, and then there's another recommendation for 6 inches of concrete. And we're probably going to bid with the construction manager both and see which one comes out more economical. But right now, the plan is to go with asphalt because that's what looks like it's going to be more affordable.
Right, yeah, that's obviously why you'd go with that. It just, my concern is if enough traffic, heavy traffic on it, it's going to start rutting out some as opposed to concrete. The part about the waiving the masonry part, are we just planning on making these metal buildings now? Is that what we're saying?
Correct. Yeah, and this is not a standard R panel that we're proposing. We're proposing what's called a 7.2 panel. It's a little more of an architectural type panel, much like what they used over at North Base for the Parks and Rec building. So it's not the same panel that Parks and Rec is using, but Parks and Rec's building and Transportation's building did not use an R panel. They used an upgraded panel. And I would also say that, right now, we have gated off. There was a connection from the water treatment plant because they haul sludge up the East Road and dump it up on the hill. And they will not be allowed to drive on our pavement because they're driving dump trucks.
Right.
So it's going to be gated just south of the water tower. As you can see up there on the plan, there's a little vertical line where that road to access the water tower is. So we're blocking that off to where the sludge hauling people have to come up and down the East Road.
Good plan.
Great questions. Any other questions for the applicant? Or any other questions for city staff? Okay, seeing none, I would move to audience comments. And seeing none, planning commission discussion.
Well, I'm liking that the city's looking for ways to save money.
Right.
Put that on record.
Great. Okay, then seeing nothing else, I would take a motion for approval.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
And a vote.
You may vote. Everyone has voted, and the motion carried 7-0.
Moving to item number 11, consideration of acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of the annual 2021 status report on development and the Norman 2025 plan. We have a staff presentation. I'll let Jane have a second to get down there.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jane Hudson, Planning Director. So I'm going to present to you tonight the 2021 Annual Status Report on the Norman 2025. I've got several of the slides within the document that was included in your agenda packet. And on this chart, you're going to see where the dollar value for the construction came in. You can see the residential came in at about 226, non-residential came in at 334, and our total construction value for 2021 was $560 million. This is an increase. This is a $221 million increase for non-residential and a $0.4 million increase in the residential district. On this slide, you are seeing that the calendar year residential units that were permitted by type. And on this slide, you've got the 2025 prediction, which was 456 units for single family. The 2021 prediction came in at 354. You can see our actual number was 559 for the single family. Mobile homes are included in that number. And this is the third year in a row that of the last 5 that the number of single family permits exceeded the number predicted by the 2025. And as you're going over there, you can see we had predicted 17 duplexes and we came in with 2. But if you look at the multifamily units there next to it, we came in at 199 units, 10 permits. But if you look at the prediction of 2021, it was 109. And I think some of that's attributed to a lot of the multifamily housing that was built in the Center City area. And then we also had another apartment complex, I believe, that came into that. So that's bringing us to 764 units, which is 159% of the 2025 prediction of 479 units. And the 559 single-family units is 158% of the 353 units predicted. This is our residential units by service or growth area. You can see that our urban service or our growth area there for 2021, we had 696 units, which is 91%. The future urban service area came in at 2, the suburban residential 11, and then our country residential came in at 55. So, I mean, this is a positive. It indicates that we've got the areas developing in the current urban service area where we've already got the services available for that growth. This is our map that is in your packet. This is the residential construction permit activity, and you can see on the map there where a lot of the permits were shown. We've got them up, you know, in the north part between 12th Border, 12th East, but, you know, north of Rock Creek around the Tecumseh area. Of course, we had some on the west side, and then we've got some down south of 9. And then you can see the one scattered out east in the rural area. This is our residential units by ward. Ward 6 came in at 218, with Ward 5 following at 131. 7 and 8 came in pretty close together there as well. Then we've got our non-residential activity map, which shows, obviously where our non-residential activity is going. The 2021 are the red dots, and I know it kind of starts to bleed together when we have a lot of information on these maps. But again, you'll notice around I-35, heavily concentrated, and then it is scattered, throughout the core area there where we've got additional non-residential activity. Then this is the addition alteration. Again, you can see the 2021, pretty active. These are our land use plan amendments, and then the following map has those highlighted there. It's really hard to see those, but we've got a couple that went from institutional to office, which I don't know if you guys can see, there's one there. We've got Norman Regional, which was this one. Then we've got a commercial one that was close to the courthouse. This one actually did not pass. And then we've got one out here east is Sanctuary Gardens. And then there was another one that was commercial. These are our zoning changes. We had a total of 30. I won't go through all of those, but that gives you an idea, again, where we're experiencing some of our activity. Got several, in the core area there. But it is, it's spread out pretty good there within the current urban service area. This is our preliminary plats by service or growth area. Again, you can see here on the 2021 numbers, we had in the current urban service area, again, we had 860 lots, 422 acres, and, continuing on, future suburban residential, and of course you get out to the country residential and your numbers are going to go up a little bit. But again, this is keeping our growth within that current urban service area. And these are our final plats. Again, same thing, got them in the current urban service area, 154 acres, 336 lots. And this is our platting history. Sorry, some of these are just really hard to see, but again, you can see the red area there for the final plats in 2021 down here. And then this is a preliminary down here south of Cedar Lane. Our rural certificates of survey, just to give you an idea, again, we've got 599 acres, average lot size 11, sorry, it's jumping, and then 50 lots. And then this is the map showing you the areas of the certificates of surveys. Also, short form plats are included in this as well. Again, see, we've got the areas out here east of Norman. And that's just an overview of the development report. Be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have on this, but I think it's a positive report, keeping a lot of the development within the area that has the services ready to go.
Any questions for staff? Or audience?
I have a question on the last page, the first paragraph under comprehensive plan update. It says, very important that the comprehensive plan for the city of Norman be updated in the next year. It talks about the 2025 plan.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about that, and we've requested from council to work on that. Is there plans?
Working on it right now.
Awesome.
Actually are working on the RFP. We've got, we had a meeting today, a couple meetings last week, so we're working on updating the RFP to get that out and hopefully get started really, really soon.
Good. And then, have we ever taken this information and removed the university, city, and maybe the hospitals projects to kind of normalize some things to see where we're at?
For the dollar value?
Yeah.
We haven't, but we could.
I think on the commercial side of the business, I think that would look, it'd be interesting to see how we compare and with, especially the university.
Yeah.
And I guess right now with the hospital, just to see how stable we are in the commercial side, or the non-residential.
Right, no, I know I say commercial, not, but yeah. So typically, we don't get OU.
Okay,
State land.
Yeah, so, but again, but it's it's a good example because, we had 192 million of Norman Regional Hospital projects, so it does,
excuse it.
Jane, I had a question just related to the update of the comprehensive plan. Is the efforts that we put in 3-4 years back are,
Can we talk about that? I can talk to you after.
okay.
Okay.
We can bring it up in miscellaneous. Whatever that was that you guys know about.
Well, it's just, it's not the item, and so we have to be so careful.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to approve. Do I approve it, or you just present it?
Recommending to move it forward to council.
Okay, I take a motion to approve recommendation to move forward to council.
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
And a vote.
You may vote. Everyone has voted, and the motion is 0.
We're now going to miscellaneous discussion. Does staff have any information for the commission to start with?
I don't have anything to pass along at this time.
All right, and Commissioner Miscellaneous?
So I can talk about this now? Okay. Well,
Ask questions, and we can get the information back to you, is my understanding, yes.
okay. I'm just curious, the efforts we put in 3 to 4 years back on the Plan Norman discussions, if any of that work will carry into what we're talking about with a potential RFP for future comprehensive plan updates, or if it's a kind of a brand-new discussion, if you will. And maybe that's not something you can answer at this point, but something I'm curious about. So.
I can send the commission an email and get you some information back on our proposal as we move forward.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Any other miscellaneous discussion?
Just want to make a note that it looks like our residential permits were fairly good
Yeah.
last year. And
Better than predicted.
so there was an article, I think, in the transcript about how Norman's fees, development fees and everything are different or maybe higher than other communities, surrounding communities. Is there a way for us to do a comparison of that in order for us to maybe see if that's an accurate statement or not? Because it sounds like to me we're doing pretty well on those permits. So I'm not asking that we do that, but maybe that's something that can be talked about at a later date. I know you're.
I believe that there is some information available for you that we can find.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other miscellaneous? I'm a little late doing this, but I'd like to welcome some of our new commissioners. Yeah, Mr. Griffith was not able to join us, and congratulations to him. I understand he has a wedding tomorrow, so I understand why he was absent today. And then welcome Commissioner Brewer and Commissioner McClure. So appreciate having you on board. And, thank you to, welcome again, Liz. I can't remember if we had previously welcomed you, but welcome again. And thank you to Commissioner Beck for his many years of service and generally adding a little bit of pip to the meetings, I would say. So may we all get a little bit of Dave in us going forward. So, any other miscellaneous discussion?
School zones. School's starting soon, right? School zones. Just saying.
All right, if there's nothing more to come before the commission,